Alright folks, we've missed quite a bit of time in terms of the market, so I'm going to go ahead and make this intro quick. There has been some wild shifting in prices over the past couple weeks, especially with the announcement that the Megatins are pushed back again to October 1st. For now, we'll see what happens there. I did hear there was a shortage of some of the material they used to make the Megatins, so maybe that may be what's causing the delay, but it does look like they also pushed back the Cyber-style structure deck a couple weeks, so I don't know what's going on. Obviously, with the pandemic and everything still, very much existing in some capacity, there has been production errors all over the place and delays and whatnot, but Megatins are pushed back, which means, again, a lot of the Megatin cards that are, pretty much not guaranteed, but close to guaranteed for reprint in terms of what Konami's done in the past. Unless they veer off that path significantly, there's no reason to think that that is going to change, so those cards will get reprinted eventually, but right now people are grabbing them again, and, maybe you bought some more time. So let's jump into today's Ion market and take a look at where things are at. Alright guys, welcome back into the video. Let's go ahead and start things off with a couple cards I wanted to point out I had no idea had any value. Starting off with Geomath Mech Final Sigma. This is a secret rare from Mystic Fighters, which has aged very well as a sealed set. I do believe it's around $300 a box now. Nothing in the set even comes close to that value. I think the Primath Mech cards are probably at the top of the set, but even they don't go that high. The cheapest near mint of Geomath Mech Final Sigma is about $5. I know this has seen play in other decks, and it is generic in terms of it only needs a tuner and a non-tuner, so there's no specifics. And being in the, extra monster zone, it's unaffected by card effects. You can play this outside of Math Mechs, and it's fine. It just does a lot more when you do play it with Math Mechs. It's a neat card. I was just surprised to see it had any value at all. I think I bulked a decent amount of these when it first came out. They were around 50 cents to $1. And if you have them, you might be sitting on a bit of a nice chunk of change. One that I'm not surprised by, I called this one quite a while ago. I actually bought this when it was about $9. Ruddy Rose Dragon, the worst name ever, is about $14, $15 at the cheapest. If you look at recent sold listings, you'll see some around 15, some around 15, and some around even 18 as high as, which is a little bit much for me, but I do think this is a really good card. I do think it's the best level 10 we currently have access to in terms of synchros. Obviously, once, Baroness de Fleur comes out, there will be some competition for it, but this is just a really, really good card, and it has the added benefit, I guess, of not being a Starlight rare either, so this is the only printing of it in Lightning Overdrive, and we know that's not getting a reprint anytime soon. So that's Blood Rose, or Ruddy Rose, whatever you want to call it. It is up about 50% from where it was last I looked, so I'm happy to see those sales. And just to check quick, it looks like a lot of the sales on this card have been over the past couple of days, which has probably caused the price to spike, but they're definitely selling. I would recommend picking this up sooner than later if you don't have one, because I do think it could continue to go up a bit more as Lightning Overdrive becomes, a more distant set. Let's talk ridiculousness. Vision Hero Ferris is $50 a piece. That is astronomical. I don't understand why. This card desperately needs a reprint, as does a lot of the other hero stuff. $50 with many sold listings around that price. And honestly, if we take a look at the sales, you can see that there have been a lot. This buyout was relatively recent. It was $35 as of last Friday, and now has been selling at $50. So really just an absolutely crazy price. Good card for sure. Heroes just become more and more unaffordable, and obviously with the Destiny Hero support coming out in Burst of Destiny, this is a card people are going to try to chase down. So I get it, but it's still super frustrating if you're looking to build anything with heroes. Even Liquid Soldier is up to about 67. That's not astronomically higher than some of the other ones were, but it is lower in quantities than usual. You can get the foreign ones cheap, like French, German, for about $37, so it is affordable for sure, but if you want an English one, they're about 65 plus, and, some people prefer that without the translations. I would advise that because you can play them anyway, and you can use the Neuron app for translations, you're honestly better off probably just grabbing the foreign copy if you don't want to wait to get this when, the reprint comes, but, don't worry, we got Hidden Arsenal coming out, so Live Twins have been getting a bunch of hype with a new card in this Dawn of Majesty set that's coming out on Friday, as well as plenty of new cards in Burst of Destiny, and people think the deck might actually be meta, which will be interesting to see. Cool artwork on them all. I know people like the whole aesthetic of it. Kisakill Frost is up to about, well, I see a couple for $7, but they go pretty high from there. With sold listings as high as $10, but that might have been somebody just looking to grab a playset. Definitely not a bad card. If you pick these up at $2 when we talked about it a while back, you're probably paying dividends a bit here. But it's a good card, and again, Lightning Overdrive is desperate for value, so it's cool to see. Couple of other live twin cards just to note here. Lila collector rare is about 75 at the lowest right now, but there have been many sold listings around 80 plus. It is very low in quantities, and I do think that as the set gets closer, especially because this is a card you're going to play multiple copies of, you could see this go up. So if you're interested in getting in on the collector rare, there is a super rare that's much cheaper, so it's not like you're forced to get this, but it is a really nice looking collector rare, and it is cheap-ish in terms of what it could be if the deck does take off. Same with Kill, about $80. They're right around the same price. This one does have noticeably lower quantities, though, with 8 listings, and this one pretty quickly goes up to 90. I think, you know, both will be cards people desire, and because they're wanted in play sets, but this one is not selling a ton. There's been one sale today at 78, and then the last one was about a week ago. Just wanted to point that out because it is a value card that may have more value as we go. Dimension Shifter, just a quick note, pivoting off a little bit here. Lower-ish quantities in comparison to how many there have been on the market previously. It's like 3 and change. I will say this is a really good card. Like, I've been playtesting some decks and utilizing this because I do think it counters a good portion of the current meta. It's a really solid option to have access to, and it's cheap enough that I would say, you know, we've seen what happened with Dark Ruler No More. We've seen what happened with some of those other cards from the same sets. So it's absolutely worth grabbing this. It's just, you know, do you want to wait and hope it gets a reprint like the other two have? I don't see a reprint on the horizon necessarily, but stranger things have happened. Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill saw play in a couple YCS decks, so I think it might have done a little bit of, you know, selling around that time. I do think it's a decent card, but I think, you know, the only reason to buy this is if you're a fan of the art, the style, whatever. A lot of people collect the Ghost Girls. It's not great, and it's almost a lock to be in the Megatins. At 17 right now, if it's in the Megatins, it'll drop to at least half that price for an affordable copy, and you can just kind of wait and bide your time. So I would not go crazy with this. But, you know, you've got the Starlight variant as well. If you're a, you know, hardcore collector, maybe take a look at that. But I do think the Starlight variant is very pricey, too. I just wanted to mention it because there had been a decent amount of sales for it recently. Next up, Cocoon of Ultra Evolution. We've got Insect support with the Bee Troopers. They are super cool. Definitely excited about them. This card's low in quantities. We've seen it sell quite a bit, where it's around $7. The ultra rare version is still pretty pricey, too, at around $9.10 and low in quantities. This is higher rarity. I would say the secret looks a lot nicer, though, and I say this is higher rarity, not like in terms of its printed rarity, but this set was notoriously hard to find. I do think this will age okay over time regardless, but you've got both options. If the deck takes off, both copies could go up a lot. Ulti Firewall Dragon is at a low, very low price of $36, $37. I don't think this card's seeing play in anything right now, but it does feel to me like a card that if you pick up at a low price will over time pay dividends. I think this will eventually go up. It's a collector's card from the anime. It's a popular card. People will play it in past formats. Right now it's cheap, but I would not be surprised to see this card double in price in the next 6 months. So if you're interested in picking one up now while they are at a low, you could probably do that now without having to spend too much. Vision Hero Increase, meant to tap this one at the same time as the other. It is not as bad as Faris. It's got 55 listings. $22 is right around where it's hovered for a while. It is a good card, but it's more or less a 1 to 2 of at most in any hero deck, so you don't see it seeing the same price as Faris, which is really the engine starter with Destiny Heroes on the horizon. Parallel Exceed has been seeing a lot of play in decks, including things like Amazement and other, you know, Cyberse, Salamangreat decks and stuff in general. It's about $10 for the super rare. I do think it's actually not the worst price, but it's still too recent to see too much more of a spike. This could over time be a card that's a really valuable or desired OTS card, but I would maybe wait until it drops a bit, see if the hype around the card itself sort of fizzles. It is a good card, but it does come in and out of formats, and right now I think it is just one that people have a lot of eyes on. But also Salon is up back to $15, which is decently high considering the fact that it started to drop with people anticipating reprints. Again, Megatins got delayed. That may have pushed this up a bit. Solid handful of sales, but nothing drastic. I mean, in the past week, there's been a handful. But, you know, they're all staying around the same price. So it's not a buyout. I think it's just I haven't checked the price on this in a bit. I would not buy this at this price. I do think it will drop, but it is possible it could be reprinted as like a common or something, at which point the foil will likely hold some of its value, so maybe pick and choose your battles there. Godarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju, still high up for a Kaiju, the only one without a reprint. You see playsets selling around 10 to 12, near mint on limbs, but first deads go over 10. It's definitely a cool card. It's one of the better Kaijus with insect support coming out, and would definitely be something I would recommend having. You're not going to get one super cheap regardless, though. The Mega Pack one is just as high up there, and it's, you know, been 6 years almost, 5 years since this card has had a reprint, so. Virtual QB Shenshen is another one that's low in quantities with 46 listings. Looks like it's about $7. I've talked about this card multiple times before on the market. If it gets reprinted, I don't think you'll see a huge spike in value. However, it is an awesome level 9 synchro that does a whole lot, both for virtual worlds and outside of virtual worlds. I would recommend just having a copy of this card one way or another because it is an absolutely solid thing to have access to. And if, again, it is one of the ones that misses the reprint or gets a lower rarity or something, that $6 price point will look pretty good. Moving into the last section of cards here, as I've talked a ton in the past 7, 8, 10 minutes, whatever time it is. Insector Hornets up to about $15. No surprise here. No reprint for this, and people are hyped, wondering whether or not B-Troopers will get any benefit from Insectors or vice versa. Hornet does need a reprint desperately, so hopefully we get that sooner rather than later. $15, though, looks like it's the cheapest you'll be paying on it. We've got Insector support coming out in Grand Creators, and I think that's a good chance that we'll see the Insector cards reprinted there, so just food for thought. Ready Fusion, a card I'm a huge fan of. I need to buy these myself, so I will put my money where my mouth is, but I'm not buying them yet. $44 seems like a good price, but I think they might drop a bit more. If you can get them around $30 to $33, I think that's a good price to pay. Less than $100 for a playset. I plan to do the same thing once the opportunity arises. Of course, I will look silly if they sell out or something and there's only 20 copies, but I think you can wait a little bit on Ready Fusion unless you have an urgent need for it. Destiny Hero Celestial is up to about $40 for the first edition with a sold listing. Clearly was bought out. It's been a hard card to find. It was notoriously shorted in Destiny Soldiers, so if you're not familiar with that, that's why it was hard to get. It was about 1 per 2 boxes, and it is a really good card for Destiny Heroes, giving you draw power and being the best alternative to Disc Commander since it's been eroded. So you can get this Ultra from Dual Overload or Common a lot cheaper without having to break the bank, but if you want the highest rarity, you're going to be paying pretty big bucks on that, it looks like. Fantasma is up in all copies. I think it's really good against a lot of the meta right now, so I'm not shocked by this. The only reason it's a little surprising is because of how many copies of it there are. There's these 3 as well as the gold rare one, but none of them are super cheap. I still think for a hand trap that comes in and out of formats and does see a decent amount of play, that $7 if you like the Ultra or $6 if you like the Super is not the worst price to pay. Tenyi Spiritathara, I shouted this out on a previous Market Watch, as a decent card to pick up. It is $9 right now. We know the Worm archetype is going to be good. It's a tuner, it's an extender, it does a whole heck of a lot, and it's just a really good card that only has a few prints. The only foil print it has is the OTS Super. $6 is a decent amount to pay on this, but I would say looking at sold listings, if you're interested in picking this up, I would get it sooner rather than later because I don't think the price is going to drop too much, and Burst of Destiny is only a couple months away. Token Collector is starting to see some hype. We got that new token archetype coming out, the Brave token. I didn't even get a chance to cover it on the channel yet. I'm a little uninspired by it, to be honest, but we'll talk about it at some point. Token Collector as the common from Soul Fusion, or is that a rare? It's hard to tell. It doesn't seem to oh yeah, it's a rare. So the rare is about $1.50 to $2. The Ultra, which is a sneak preview promo, only won by like a lottery system with the new way that they do the sneaks. $10 plus. It's solid. Go for the Ultra if you're going to go for one. I think it's got the best chance of being a long-term value just because of how limited it was, but I would not pay $10 on this. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as used as people might be projecting. Fusion Destiny is up again. Another one I've talked about. This is about $2. It's about $7 now. Destiny Heroes get their support. It's really good support, and this is literally a fusion that can use cards from the deck, so it is no reason not to have it. It's got 2 printings. It's got the Dark Neostorm version and the Megatin version. Both versions are up to about $6. Go for the Ultra. With how close the prices are, it's going to be the better long-term investment for you. Cursed Necrofear is up crazy. Another reason we need a reprint here for these Legendary Duelist sets. It's $45. Super short printed card, like one per case, I believe, was the average ratio people were seeing. It's not really used, but it is a collectible card. It's a retrain of Dark Necrofear. People love it. And until we get a reprint, I don't see the price of this going down all that much because there's just not a lot of quantities to restock the market. And lastly today, Bahamut Shark is going up for all copies, which isn't super surprising. The secret's already been high, but for the printings that do exist, it is relatively expensive and lower in quantity. So if you're interested in playing something coming up that will be using those water cards, whether it's the Jellyfish archetype with the Kraken or something that maybe I'm not even thinking of that, you know, could be coming out at some point in the future, I would say maybe grab a Bahamut Shark. It could do with another reprint at some point, but it did just get the Super in OTS about a year ago or so, so it's not, you know, super long time, but I think we could probably do with a more accessible reprint if you couldn't get to tournaments and stuff due to this coming out during the pandemic. So that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think about the current prices, where things are at, and I'll see you in the next video.